absolute peed on him?
Huh?
Oh, God. Well, now we're off into the weeds. Jeff Levering joins us now. Big Ten Network. He'll be calling Wisconsin Northwestern on Saturday. Why does Brian lead us into those things unscripted, Mr. Levering? Why?
It's all about the callus, right? That's why he would pee on his hands, because he didn't want calluses, and he never used batting gloves, and calluses toughen up your hands, and when you pee on your hands, it toughens up those little grippers.
Allegedly. Now, that was the story behind it, but is there any science to it?
As a guy who never wore batting gloves when I played, personally, I never peed on my hands.
Okay.
But I can understand why that might be a decent rationale.
So have you ever peed on your feet for athlete's foot?
Oh, boy, here we go.
No, I have not for athlete's foot. No, I have not. I use a topical cream if I ever get athlete's foot.
Okay. I have during the season a couple times. It works. It does.
By a jellyfish. Never been stung by a jellyfish either.
That's right. Okay. That supposedly is another remedy for human urine. Yeah. Jellyfish.
I think we have all the
jellyfish stings, gloveless batting grips in baseball, and what else? Well, let's not go there. Let's just end this right now.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry to take this off the rails.
Way to go, Butchie. Well done. Good job by you.
All
right.
Yankees win. Or this is the last time today. I'll do it.
Yankees win last night. The Mets have tied their series up. Game 3 is tonight in New York. And here we are down to the Final Four in baseball. Give us your 30,000-foot view of the two series right now.
Point number one for me is I'm done with this narrative that the Mets are some like comeback
Cinderella.
Cinderella story because they have the highest payroll in Major League Baseball. They should be here. So for everybody to say that they're Cinderella, should they be there? Probably not. The Brewers had them beat, but they are there, and that's the end of the day. But they're not a Cinderella, not by any stretch. They're playing very good baseball right now. I think the Dodgers are in trouble because their starting pitching is a disaster, and they proved that their bullpen, with one swing of the bat from Francisco Lindor, totally flipped that whole series. But I do think that the Dodgers are really in trouble with the series tied and going back to New York. It's going to be cold. So I sadly kind of like the Mets in that series.
Yeah. Do you remember the game in which I think it was a rain-delayed game? Pretty much the entire stands had emptied out. Citi Field was almost empty, and the Mets were playing terrible. They were a billion games under, and their own announcers said, well, if this doesn't feel like rock bottom, I don't know what does. Do you remember that moment in the season?
I do remember that. Gary Cohen said it perfectly. And then what happens when you hit rock bottom? There's nowhere to go but up.
That's true.
Joe, who was the player that said this is the worst franchise and took the glove? Who was that for the Mets this
threw his
year?
club into the stands, and they cut him.
That was Jorge Lopez, former Brewer.
Yes.
Yeah, and then ended up signing with the Cubs and had a pretty decent year for the rest of the season, pitching out of their bullpen.
So while the Mets may not be a Cinderella, the rise from those depths is pretty remarkable. You have to admit, right?
Yeah, I do. I do agree with that. I mean, of all the teams, they flipped the script as well as anybody did. And, right. They expected to have a really good season, and they spent the money. They went out there. They did what they needed to do in terms of spending money, and they're going to probably spend some money in the off season whenever that off season comes. But to go from where they were, the only other team that had done a better job was the Tigers. I mean, the Tigers sold at the trade deadline. They're like, get this guy out of here, and we're trying to get ourselves better for the future. And then as soon as Javi Baez got hurt, the Tigers went on this incredible run without him. So, I think the Mets and the Tigers were the two teams that really did a great job of coming back after starting really poorly and putting together a really good season. Now, the Tigers' year is done. The Mets are in a really good place, tied 1-1 in what turns into a best-of-5 series now. And they've got 3 home games. So I think the Mets are in a really, really good place against the Dodgers.
If the Mets win it all, and God forbid they do, because that cannot happen, although something tells me the recent karma is such that teams that beat the Brewers suddenly get on a rocket ship in the postseason. But if they do win it all and you were to say, all right, tell me about the Mets' incredible championship season of 2024, you'd be like, well, you're not going to believe this. They were like 20 games under. They had an empty ballpark. The announcers are goofing on the team. One of their players throws a glove in the stands, gets cut the next day. Then they adopt some McDonald's character as their rallying cry. They get some girl who went viral for being famous for a sexual act, and she throws out the first pitch. Their infielder records a Latin single and sings it after one of their wins. Next thing you know, they're in the World Series and they won the thing. Holy crap.
Yeah, it takes this crazy stuff like that to happen, right? At least there's no black cat or some rally possum or something of those nature. I mean, what's funny is that if they do end up winning the World Series, and this is a big what if, there's always something that goes on that World Series ring that is the rallying cry. So I'm curious what they would do.
Would it be Grimace?
Would it be how much money do you have to pay to have Grimace to go on that ring, or do you put OMG on it because that's kind of a big thing for them too?
Right.
What is the quirky thing that you put on that ring? That's the biggest question I would have.
Does Hawk Tua Girl ride in the parade?
That's
a
man.
question for at least 6 more wins from now.
Yeah, 6. Well, TBD. She's done pretty well for herself in terms of the cash flow, though. I will say that.
Jeff, if it's Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, Yankees, let's just say it's that. Is that good for baseball?
It's really good for the networks. I mean,
I know you're a TV guy, but I'm saying baseball.
I'm telling you, if you're Fox right now, you are in such a good place because you're either going to have New York in the World Series or LA, no matter what. No matter what happens in the American League, you're going to have the 2 biggest markets in America in the World Series because one of those 2 teams is going to be in it. Now, if it's Yankees Dodgers, I mean, that's the dream. That's the dream. That's what everybody wanted at the network level. If it ends up being Cleveland, if they go on this crazy run and come back and win this thing down 2-0 going back to Cleveland, then they're not going to be as thrilled. I want it. I think that would be fantastic because Cleveland hasn't won it since 1948, and I'm all in for Stephen Vogt. I said that last week. But at the network level, they are really pleased that New York and LA are going to be a part of this thing. For baseball, if you have the New York Mets, again, it's a great story as we just talked about. If you have the Dodgers, then it's the Shohei Ohtani show, and 7 batters until Ohtani's coming up. You're gonna have a little elevator in the lower right-hand corner watching some TV show on a Monday night when there's a game on Tuesday, and it's going to say 22 hours until Ohtani. Like that, it's great for the game to put that guy who's never been in the postseason before on the grandest stage. That is also a good thing for Major League Baseball, I think, in my opinion.
So on the vote front, there was a great piece in The Athletic about what is called guards ball for the Guardians, a slashing and dashing style of offense that pressures pitchers and defenses until they cave, and has propelled them to the playoffs 2 years ago, and they've done it again this season. You said that, Stephen Vogt was showing signs of this back when he was with the Brewers.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. I mean, it's funny. They talk about guards ball. I mean, the Brewers really did it all season long, too. And if the Brewers are on this stage, it would be Brewer ball. But Stephen Vogt, he's done such a great job with that team. And you could see it when Voter was with the Brewers in 2017 and even in 2018 when he didn't even play. He played 0 games. But he was as big a part of this franchise when he wasn't even playing. Essentially being a second manager to Craig Counsell at the time and learning a lot from Pat Murphy, who's going on the pre and post game show with Craig Kashan and those guys offering his advice. He was fantastic. Stephen Vogt, whatever he wants to do in life, he's going to excel at. I'm just telling you, whether it's a manager or he could go sell machine parts, he could go do whatever. He could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves and he would have success.
Well done.
So all I'm saying is that he deserves everything that's coming his way. He's going to be the American League Manager of the Year, and kudos to him for getting the Guardians there, and I hope they make a nice comeback against the Yankees.
Yeah, and that's what we want in baseball. We want the ball in play, runners in motion. That's what the emphasis of all these rules were meant to do, to get baseball back to being what it was. It had pretty much stagnated into a 4-hour and 15-minute base-to-base strikeout or home run type of game that took forever. Boring baseball.
And the strikeouts are still there because pitching is really, really good. But the amount of contact that people are making, the emphasis on the running game, you saw with the Brewers all season long. I think that the emphasis on the running game is really it's a real thing, and it helped the Brewers probably get 10 wins this year just by being aggressive and taking an extra base and keeping defenses on their toes to where they could make a mistake. It's really important, and I think that style of play is here to stay.
Also, Vogt really puts a lot of faith in his catcher, Hedges, who came back to the team. And you being a catcher, I want you to chime in on this. They say that Hedges has been as much a mental coach, guidance counselor, and senior motivator for Vogt. Vogt says, quote, "He's my voice," unquote, on the team.
No doubt. And coming from a former catcher too, I mean, catchers see the game in a different way. You're the only person that's facing in that direction. Everybody else is looking into you. So you really are the manager on the field.
Interesting.
I heard an interview earlier this year too. And it wasn't with Stephen Vogt, it was with one of the broadcasters. And just talking about you could really learn about a team on how they travel and who the good guys are and who the kind of not good guys are by how they treat the people that are on the team playing. And coming from some folks that are within the traveling party, having Austin Hedges back on that roster cooled all the waters. Having him in the back of the plane, policing how people are treating other people, that goes a long way. That goes a long way. And to have him back on that roster, and he might hit $150, if that. But what he does defensively and what he does in that clubhouse, you cannot put a value on. And again, you learn a lot about a guy on how they travel and how they treat other people. And he's holding those other players accountable.
Yeah. But you ever heard of the phrase, the tools of ignorance, when it comes to catchers?
I have.
Yes. I'm sure you know this as a baseball man, Jeff Levering, but for our listeners, Harold Muddy Rule, who played the game from 1915 to 1934, coined the term for the equipment used by catchers, the tools of ignorance, meaning the intelligence needed to be effective playing catcher would also be foolish enough to play that position that required all of that safety equipment. What a great phrase.
It's so good. And it's true. It's absolutely true. And I really, I love the fact that I've had the ability to talk with you all these years about just the level of equipment and how different it is now to when he played back in the 50s and 60s, to even when your guy was playing in the 1910s and 1920s, how different the gear is. I mean, the fact that catchers used to catch without a mask on is insane.
It's crazy.
Kind of like hockey goalies without a mask.
Right.
What the heck are you guys doing? Those are tools of ignorance, because you love playing the position. You want to get out there, but man, you're an idiot if you play with the lack of equipment that they played with.
Right.
And with all the equipment, you still get sniped. Last night, Austin Wells caught one right on the bicep on an amazing block that saved a run for the Yankees.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that must have hurt like hell, especially when it's cold. Urine or no urine, Butchie. When it's cold, baseball hurts.
Yeah,
it's
question.
Cold.
Yeah, it's cold. When it's cold, it's cold. Jeff, I'm gonna pivot real quick here. You had Wisconsin Rutgers. You got Wisconsin Northwestern. Wisconsin looked really good against Rutgers. What was your takeaway from that game, and what's your takeaway as you prep for this Wisconsin Northwestern game?
Yeah, my biggest thing going into last week was, were they going to be able to back up the offense that they put together against Purdue, right? They scored 52 points against Purdue. Was that an outlier, or was that closer to what the normal should be for this offense? And then they go out and score 42 points against a really good defense at Rutgers. Yes, they were banged up, but getting Tommy Walker going, was really important for Wisconsin. The offensive line starting to come together. The big question mark going into this week is how's Will Falling? Are they going to get some of their wide receivers back? But running the football was such a big part of Wisconsin's identity. It was their identity for so many years under Barry Alvarez. They've gotten away from it a little in this air raid offense. But at the same time, you're attacking space. And if there is availability in the running game, they're going to exploit it. So it's been good to see them the last couple of weeks go back to that running game. It's not just air it out down the field 40, 50 yards at a time. Little chunks here, little chunk there, and then a gash with the running game. I thought they were really impressive. They were also very impressive on the defensive line, too. Shutting down a guy like Kyle Monunga last week the way that they did. I thought those guys in the interior played a fantastic game. They're going to need it again against a very run-heavy Northwestern team, too.
Do you know what your broadcast setup will be at the temporary pop-up stadium by the lake?
Yes, we are in a storage container, which has a window cut out. That is our broadcast booth. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. But the temperature
opulence. I know it's going to be a banger day down there by the lake.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice day for sure. And
you should wear shorts.
A lot of red.
Wear shorts.
He's a professional.
Wear shorts.
It's going to get steamy in the old storage container.
I know. I think you should. I think you should wear shorts. Hey, I'm all fine with the suit coat and the tie, but rock some dress shorts. I'm telling. I don't think you're going to do it, but you should.
You should do it. Maybe I'll do a halftime adjustment. We'll see.
Ooh,
all right.
You should.
All right, Jeff. Have a great call this weekend, and as always, we appreciate your stopping in. We'll talk next week.
You got it. Talk to you later,
sir.
guys.
Jeff Levering, who will call the game on the Big Ten Network. You'll, of course, hear the game right here on your home of the Badgers. It's a trap game. This is an Admiral Akbar special because psychology says they're looking over Northwestern at Penn State coming on homecoming. So it's going to take everything in Luke Fickell's, powers to get the boys focused.
I don't know if this season they have trap games. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if this season they.
You don't think this? Why not? Why would this not be a trap game? They're favored. They're favored by how many? The Badgers, 7, something like that. Anyway, you'll hear it right here on your home of the Badgers and the Badger Football Radio Network. 97.3 The Game here in Milwaukee, 1310 WIBA in Madison. And it'll be Reed Magnum and Nick Bruzewitz starting at 7 a.m. with Badgers Game Day. Then Mike Heller after that. Then the great Matt LePay with the call at 11 a.m. Post-game with Billy Schmidt and Lance Allen. Coming up, Aaron Nagler, Cheesehead TV. Packers have a new kicker. Can we finally stop talking about the kicker? Lots of other good stuff to pick through. Couldn't have scripted a better return for Dobbs last week, and I was happy to see it. Joining us now, as he does every Wednesday, our Packer insider, Aaron Nagler from good old Cheesehead TV, Carry the G Radio, where there's a big announcement we're going to make in just a second. He is brought to you today, as always, by Rodgers Behavioral Health, Hildebrand Law, the great taste of Miller Lite, and Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There is a difference. Good morning, Mr. Nagler. How are you?
Morning, Zabe. Morning, boys. I'm doing great. Lovely Wednesday. Ready to turn the page, get ready for the Houston Texans after that big, dominant win over the Cardinals. Loving life.
Yes, life is good. So I understand you're gonna have a special guest starting next week on your Tuesdays Carry the G Radio show right here on the game. Do tell.
That is correct. Bill Schmidt and I will be joined by Packers running back A.J. Dillon each and every week for the remainder of the season, breaking it down, chopping it up. Going to be having a good time talking ball with AJ. Done it before. Looking forward to doing it again.
Quadzilla is in the house.
Absolutely.
You better run a lot of 40 gut with him if that's the case.
Right. All right. Big time. Going to get the two tights. Going to run through the A gap. A lot of that.
How great is it that you of the Run the Damn Ball fame have added a bruising running back to your show?
I mean, it's phenomenal. And during a season where the Packers are actually running the ball. I mean, they have run for 1,003 yards through these first 6 games. That they have not done that since 1963. They are legit running the football, and I am absolutely loving it because it's doing all the things I've talked about and said it would do when they did it, as far as helping the quarterback, opening up your play action game, opening up the passing game in general. It's lovely to see. I absolutely adore this team.
Let's put Josh Jacobs up on the podium pedestal here for a second to talk about this year. Here's what I love the most about him this year, and I want to hear what you like the most about him, is that he's had a few jailbreak runs, but he's had a ton of runs in the 6 to 8 yard range where what you think he's got is not all he gets, because he's got more after what you think he's going to get, right?
That's
just
perfectly
big,
said.
Bruising, punishing runs, the kind of runs that Aaron Jones, as much as we love him, was not built for because he's tiny.
Yeah,
Jacobs is a bigger rig
very different
than
backs,
that,
right? Yeah.
And he runs that way. That's what I love. What do you love most about the 8 car?
Well, that in particular, that kind of ability to make, yards after contact consistently and not have to come out of the game, though they do rotate, obviously, with Emmanuel Wilson, who I also think has played extremely well so far this season. But the ability to keep your offense on schedule and ahead of the sticks, that's what was so frustrating about the Rams game, because they kept getting into 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10. That's hard to overcome. You look at this Cardinals game, they were living in 3rd and short or 3rd and medium, and that's a lot easier. And, of course, you look at it, and they were over 50% conversion rate on 3rd down against the Cardinals, where they were, I think, 1 of 8 against the Rams. It's just a different world you're living in as a quarterback, as a play caller, and Jacobs allows you to do that. There are so many plays in that Cardinals game where, the defense is playing a 5-man front, the 5-man line, and then adding linebackers to the mix. On top of it, there's some really tough running in that game that it's not sexy. It's not big. You're not big cheer after a 3 or 4 yard game,
right?
But it all adds up, and it kept adding up in that game, and it opened up everything else on offense. I love it. I love this.
The TV broadcast said they were under 5 yards average on 3rd down at one point in the game. Do we know if they finished at that number?
I think.
Does anyone track that number?
I'm sure PFF does at some point. I know they gained a 6.2 yards per play in that game. As far as 3rd downs, I'm not quite sure. I'd have to go.
Okay. Now that I think about it, Nags, that would be a good number that we should be tracking all the time. What was the team's average 3rd down number? Because that's a pretty good health indicator of how did the game go for you on offense.
Big time. Absolutely. No question.
Yes, we need more stats.
Luddy,
Butch is a big stat guy. I can tell.
Luddy, big stat guy here. Let's add some more stats.
I want a spreadsheet. I want every team's average 3rd down to go number at the end of the games. Yeah.
I thought I saw.
No, that was a thumb. That was a thumb up.
Oh, that was a thumb up. Sorry.
Expertly
right, so
disguised as a middle finger. No,
yeah,
okay.
right. So I'm going to give you I'm going to ask you a question here, but Zabe's going to jump in. I already know it because this is we talked about this at about 5:45.
I will lay out.
No. I don't want you to lay out. This is one where I actually want you to jump in.
No.
So we have a new kicker. And somebody was very active on social media, comparing the percentages. Zabe, go ahead.
Well, okay. Mr. Nagler did tweet out the make percentage.
Okay. First of all, let's define words here. Very active. One tweet, sir. One tweet.
It was one tweet, and it was almost like Nagler slipped the hotel room bill under your door.
That's exactly it.
Isn't that what it was? It was like
exactly
here.
it.
With all the charges.
It's like, Zay, we share a brain. I swear to God, you are the one person who always, I don't have to explain it. I don't have to couch it in anything. You always get it, Zabe. You always get it.
Is that a good thing?
Well,
yes, 100% yes.
Okay. But if I may, and I resisted going back at you on Twitter because there's no context or flavor to it. I wanted to say it here. Nags, at least McManus has done it for 10 years.
Look, I understand why they made this move.
Difference.
I get it. Of course, there's a monster sample size comparatively. I get it. I get all of it. They got desperate. They've been trying to find a long-term answer at kicker. It has absolutely bit them time and time again.
What's long-term anyway at kicker? 5 years?
The Ryan Longwells of the world, the Mason Crosbys of the world, your long-term answer at kicker. Exactly.
So
that's what they've been trying to find.
10.
Probably
okay.
10
is that a smart
greedy?
Is it smart to try to find a long-term guy?
I mean, they've been really good at it.
Yes,
okay.
it is. I don't know. You don't like kickers, but yes, it is. There's value in this.
Stability at the position has been something that's lived in Green Bay for, pretty much since the 90s. I mean, they've gone through a couple hiccups, no doubt about it, but they found the guy. I think Brian's been trying to find the guy and finally said, I can't keep throwing away games. They didn't throw it away this past week, but they could have.
Right. My feeling is the kickers come and go. They're kind of like closers in baseball. They have a certain shelf life.
You're a Washington fan, so that's understandable. I get
that.
That's. I mean,
there's a history.
Here, I'll use other examples. I mean, New England had Gostkowski, who was really good for a stretch of about 5 years, and then he kind of fell off. The Cowboys had Dan Bailey, who was also money, absolute money.
Total money until he wasn't.
Until he wasn't, and then they found this guy Aubrey, who's the Loch Ness monster, like
he's
a complete freak of nature. So I guess my point is you're going to find other guys. Now, the more interesting signing yesterday was the Niners with Carlson.
Yes, sir.
And you as a theater major and a movie
you just know where this is headed. Come on.
You've probably heard of the movie cliche called Chekhov's gun.
Yes. Indeed.
Chekhov's gun, Butchie, is a movie cliche in which if you see a character with like a gun early in the movie for just a second, rest assured that will come back later on in the movie to be significant. That is not shown for any dumb reason. This signing will be Nagler has Chekhov's gun written all over it.
I just know, I think Peter Bukowski tweeted this is going to be his Joker origin story if they get to the playoffs and Carlson wins a game for the 49ers in the playoffs against the Packers. Like
Carlson sending us home is the most written in the stars thing I've ever looked up at right now. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah. Let's just hope it doesn't come to that. All right, let's win by 21.
I'm not looking because Moody's going to get his ankle fine, and Moody is their guy moving
and Moody's
forward.
Their guy, exactly.
This is a security blanket. That's all it is. This isn't one of those things where
this is like last year. Teams were signing Mason Crosby at the end of the year. Didn't he bounce around to like 3 different teams until he finally missed one for the Giants, and then that was it. It's like
he was on the Giants.
That's kind of what the Carlson signing is, definitely. Real quick, I want to jump in on something you guys were talking about right before I got on. Butch, I could not agree with you more about the Badgers and the lack of a trap game. You can't have a trap game if you're not good. The Badgers aren't good. I know they've beaten up on Rodgers and they're having, some wins, but they're not a good team. You can't. You have to be a good team to have a trap game.
Okay,
that's how that works. They're not good.
Do NFL teams have trap games, or is that a college phenomenon only?
I want to say no, that doesn't exist. It's all made up in the media, but I've been watching football way too long.
Yeah.
To say
and
it doesn't exist. I've seen it happen, and it's like momentum. The argument about does momentum exist? And some, especially the stat nerds say, well, that just is how the game works, and there is no thing like momentum. And I'm like, man, when I'm in a building, I can feel it. And if I can feel it, that means it exists. And I don't care what numbers you want to put on it or how you want to dismiss it. I totally believe in momentum.
All right,
and I do believe in trap games.
So you believe in it, then is the Packers versus Jaguars a trap game for the Packers?
It could be. It could be if they allow it to be.
You just get done playing a marquee game against Houston.
Big game against the
You
Texans.
got Detroit. Detroit's
on
coming
the other
outside.
side. That is classic trap game. Now
you got Steve Zabin in town,
and Steve is at the game.
I'll be in Jacksonville.
Now, the one thing that helps them is that it is in Jacksonville, because if it was at Lambeau, it'd be real easy to have the kind of overlooked. I'm at home. I'm cozy. Whatever. The fact that it is in Florida, where they have been absolutely terrible. I mean, they have just sucked in Florida. I think Matt's going to pull out all the stops to make sure that they are completely focused on this one, because nothing's a gimme. Absolutely.
Well, we exercised the LA demon already, so let's exercise
the
Florida
West Coast
demon
taken care of. Now I got to deal with Florida. 100%.
It's going to sound like Lambeau, because my guy down there that got us tickets said all of the Jacksonville fans are selling their tickets for this game to recoup their entire season, because they're fed up. They know that Peterson's dead man walking, and they know that Packer Nation travels. So get ready.
Time. I mean, this is ultimately why it took so long for the Packers to play overseas, because teams don't want to give those games up, because they know Packers fans show up.
Money.
Packers fans will absolutely take the place over.
Now we're going to be playing overseas every year, it seems like.
Maybe not every year, but every few years.
A lot.
It's definitely happening. Sure. No question about it.
All right. So the Devontae thing.
Oh, boy.
Let me get your thoughts on that.
I'm excited, man. I love the fact that I get to watch Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams play football together, and I don't have to be emotionally invested in it. Like, it doesn't matter to the Green Bay Packers. So, hey, man, throw all those back shoulders, do all that crazy no-look stuff you want to do. Hey, it doesn't matter to me, but it's fun to watch in a vacuum where it doesn't affect the standings as far as my favorite football team. I'm in on it. Like glory days from years past, I get to watch it play out in a different uniform. I'm all in. The Packers have a great, young, exciting team trying to build a contender, and I get to watch Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams at the same time. I love it.
Is there anything dirty though about the hamstring suddenly being fine, or is that just
dirty? That's just life in the NFL. You knew that was coming. Of course, dirty. You want to call it dirty?
I knew it was coming. I'm asking how dirty it is.
That
he's like, hamstring feels great.
It's like Mike McKenzie back in the day. Mike McKenzie, I'm hurt, quote unquote, and then he gets traded and then he's fine. He's playing for the Saints.
Yeah. Nick, does it make you sad at all though, seeing Aaron Rodgers being old? Because it did Monday when he started doing the whole rub in the head, and I was like, this is not like this is me at night with 3 kids at 40. Like, oh my God! Like, what am I doing?
It is
just like, what am I doing with this life of mine?
That's the weird part, right? It's like such a sudden spotlight on mortality and how Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah.
Right. Like, here's this 4-time MVP, Super Bowl winning quarterback who, in your mind, is just forever going to be like that, and then all of a sudden, there's a big, humongous reminder that, it's slowing down for him. It's almost over. The music has been cued.
Exit question: did the Packers get out of Devontae at just the right time as well as they did with Rodgers?
I don't think so. I'll always regret not being able to see him with Jordan Love. I do think, I buy everything Devontae said about, not wanting to be there for Jordan's kind of grow up, so to speak, year, and then he wanted to play with Carr, wanted to play next closer to his family. I buy all of that, but man, it would have been great to see that bridge as far as Devontae going from Rodgers to Love. And if he had, I think he'd be walking into the Hall of Fame because his numbers would have been ridiculous. Now, as it is, I think he's got a case, but man, he's been in the wilderness now for a few years.
Woody Johnson invoked Talladega Nights yesterday after the signing, saying thinking is overrated. Sometimes you just have to YOLO. Thank
the
God we don't
owner.
have that guy.
That's the owner.
Owner.
Thinking is
exactly.
overrated.
Thinking's overrated. Exactly. That's why Belichick clowned him on the Manning cast, saying,
As he should.
Ready, fire, aim.
Love it.
That's why
Absolutely
they're a 30%
love it.
team. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Nagler, next week, AJ Dillon joins your show right here on The Game. Of course, you can get all your Packer-related content 24/7 at cheeseheadtv.com.